So I had already recorded a video explaining this whole story, but I realized that there were some parts that I left out. And I just figured I might as well record another video. I'm getting ready to go to the store, actually to Hobby Lobby. And I thought I should record this while I have the chance because then I probably would not. So this is probably going to be the very first video that I would have uploaded in a year, about a year. This past year has been amazing, filled with challenges, filled with victories, filled with lessons. Just so much has been happening. And I'm going to be sharing and posting here more often related to still the faith and fro journey, the homemaking journey. It's been a year now since I've been homemaking full time. Going to tell you guys about the new wives club that I was able to join, the hair course that I was about to able to launch. New wives club I was able to launch, not join. Anyway, there's a lot, so make sure you stay tuned. So the biggest question is, what happened to my hair? How did I lose about 13? It's about 13 inches of my hair. That is the question. So that's the main question. So I'm just going to go down a list of questions that I have that might probably make this a bit easier. So the first thing is, what led you to a stylist? A little bit of background. I started really caring for my hair maybe in 2012. This was during my undergrad years in Jamaica, and I had been struggling with my hair for a while. Never thought that it could get to a point and be manageable where I could love it, where it can grow. So I started caring for it. So it's been about 10 years since I was really caring for my hair, and it flourished and it grew and it was manageable. And I also realized that this was an avenue for me to share the gospel, because everywhere I went, women would ask, what do you do with your hair? What do you do with your hair? And the Holy Spirit was like, this is a discussion piece, because the Lord was also using my experience with my hair to teach me about growing my faith and growing my relationship with Jesus. And so I thought, man, this is not just about hair. This is about the most important thing, which is our relationship with Christ. And so that's how I started the whole My Faith and Fro journey ministry thing. Anyway, about a year ago, actually a year ago at the time of this recording, my husband and I bought a home. And shortly after that, I realized, man, my hair is so tangly. Like months later, my hair was, this was probably maybe starting in maybe October. We moved in April, I think. Anyway, a few months later, my hair was just, it was just acting really weird. It was extremely tangled. It kept like matting up on itself. No matter what I did, the breakage was a lot, and I was having a hard time combing it out. On top of that, because of the length of it, like it was way down my back, about 24 inches, like in total. Some parts, of course, longer than other parts, but it was extremely hard for me just to detangle it. And the more that I would wet it, I would come out and it would dry. I would put more stuff to try to get it to moisturize, and it would just get dry so very quickly, and I couldn't figure out what was happening. There were a lot of times where I was in tears, like literally crying, going to Steven's office, and I'm like, I need you to help me. And he would come and try to detangle my hair, and it just was not happening. Then in February of this year, I made one of the biggest mistakes, because I think the biggest mistake was this whole hair cut thing. But I made one of the biggest mistakes, and where my hair was so tangled, I thought, man, maybe if I just wet it, like just jump in the shower and just wet it, because I don't have time to detangle. I was getting ready to travel, and I jumped in the shower to wash my hair without detangling, and my hair just mat on itself. It took me 5 days. I'm not exaggerating. 5 days to pull it apart. Anyway, that ended up happening. I asked a friend, hey, what do you do? And she recommended a clay one of those detoxifying clays. I tried that in my hair and it made a difference. But by then I knew I needed a trim really bad. I had a lot of split ends and I needed someone else to actually sit in my hair and comb it out properly, because the length of it, the density of it, I just could not do it by myself. So that led me to booking an appointment at a hair salon. And I wanted to find something closer because Stephen and I were supposed to go to California, and there was someone there who knew how to do my hair. And I was like, I want to find something closer. So I booked this appointment, and I requested on filling out the form, and then you sent pictures as well. So I sent pictures of my hair completely out, front, side, back, sent it in, and I requested a shampoo, blow dry, and a trim. I try to detangle it as much as possible, because for most of these places, they request that you detangle your hair because they just don't have time to do that. And I tried to detangle my hair as much as I could. When I got to the salon, she saw that my hair really, it was not detangled enough. And so she had the option. She could have turned me away. If she looked at my hair and realized, this isn't the service that you booked for, she could have turned me away, but she didn't. And I was grateful for that. And she used all of her mighty power. My scalp was sore for 5 days, but she detangled it very well. She did that. And she washed it. And as it was washing, the ends, I noticed that the ends of my hair just kept bulking up together. And I had a ton of shed hair that just did not come out because I was having such a hard time, detangling that. So went through that process. She washed, she treated, did some conditioner thing and blow dried my hair. And I remember looking in the mirror, and I still had length to my hair because she had been trimming, like cutting, like as she was washing, but it wasn't like any major cut. And there was, shed hair too. So by the time it was, she had blow dried it, my hair was still, down my back. And I stood up to the mirror, and against the mirror, she put another hand mirror in my hand and showed me how much she was going to cut. Because up to this point, and I feel like this is where I guess the breakdown of misunderstanding, miscommunication happened. There were several instances where I did mention that I'm expecting to lose 3 to 4 inches of my hair, because I know that the ends I have a lot of split ends, and my hair was not in a healthy state. I'd had length to it, but by that time, I forgot to mention the whole reason why I mentioned the house thing. We ended up finding out it was hard water was the problem. The house here, the water is extremely hard. It was bad. And so I had all of that mineral buildup in my hair. And I think the previous house as well, the water was hard. And so just years of that happening, or a certain period of time of that happening, that's what causes the hair to become just very dry. Nothing can penetrate it. Moisture can't get in. So it's dry, it's tangly, it's matting on itself, and all of that stuff. So that was the problem, hard water. So she showed me about how much she was going to cut. And to me, it looked about 3 inches of hair. And again, because I'm not used to, anyway, in my mind, because I had requested on the form, I had requested a trim, and I had said, I'm expecting to lose 3 to 4 inches. I did not think, it did not occur to me to actually express, I do not want my hair cut. But anyway, so she showed me how much she was going to cut. And she cut my hair. I sat down. I was not looking in the mirror while this was happening. And then when I looked up, I remember my first thought was, man, my hair looks really short. I am a very slow processor when it comes to really shocking things. There was this one time this guy broke up with me, and I remember him telling me this, and I sat there. I was not moved. Like I was like, oh, okay, that's totally fine. You know, that's how you feel. That's okay. I really did not feel a thing. I was so amicable about it. It wasn't until I drove off, like 5 minutes past, I literally said to myself, what just happened? And I burst out crying. So it took me a while. So while I'm sitting in the chair and I'm looking and I see my hair, and I'm like, man, my hair looks really short. And I remember putting it in a ponytail and putting it like in a bun and just thinking, where did my hair go? Like it's starting to, and then she was talking about, different products and so forth. And I was asking her, different, because she was sharing with me other things that I needed to do with my hair as well. It wasn't until I left the salon, Stephen King picked me up and he's like, your hair looks really short. It wasn't until I got in the car and the flood of tears just came and I cried a lot. I cried the rest of the day. The next day, my face was so swollen from crying. And I just had to process all of that. So, that in a nutshell is what led me to going to see a stylist, in that hard water had really done a number on my hair. And it was really tangled. It got really dry. It was really brittle. And I needed someone to really detangle it for me and get a trim. And then I was just going to continue, take it over from there and getting my hair back to a healthy state, because my hair had been in times before just not in a good state, and was able to bring it back. What did the stylist say? It's one of the questions. So I did not contact her until about 4 weeks later, because about 5 days later, I got hit with COVID, and then Steven got hit with COVID. Then I started the hair course. So a lot was going on, and I needed to get to a healthy mindset in regards to how I felt about my hair before communicating. I didn't want to communicate in a state of anger or frustration. Anyway, skipping that whole part. So it took me 4 weeks, and I sent an email expressing that I appreciated her service of, detangling my hair. But I'm very shocked that, I left about 13 inches of my hair at her salon. In response, and I appreciate that she responded. Anyway, in her response, she emphasized a lot about the time that it took to deal with my hair, which for me, I felt that was not the issue that we were talking about. Also, she mentioned, I think about 2 times, that had she gotten the pictures of my hair sooner, that she would have known how much time to spend on my hair, which also was not the issue at hand, because I sent in the pictures on the day that it was requested. And then she mentioned that my hair was dull, dry, and brittle. And so she can't understand why I would cry for cutting off dry, dull, brittle hair. That was the part that was, I don't know, I haven't quite figured out the word for it yet. But in my mind, a lot of people have dry, dull, brittle hair, and we don't chop it all off at once. For most people, especially if you have long hair, you might want to trim it off little by little and sort of bring it back to health, because you can't repair hair, right? Like you have to let it grow back out. So some people prefer to just cut it off little by little, until it starts to grow, and you keep trimming. She said that she never would have agreed if I had expressed I wanted 3 inches cut off. She never would have agreed to do that. Yeah, so that was her explanation, that my hair was damaged and it needed to get cut. That was the gist of it. The biggest lesson that I've learned from this, several things. First of all, make sure when you sit down and someone share that you communicate very clearly what it is that you want. And if they recommend something different, if you do not feel ready for that recommendation, then say, I am not ready for that. So had I gone in and said, I just want my hair trim a few inches, or not even a few inches, like be clear, I want my hair trim 2 inches or 3 inches. And the stylist is like, what I would recommend is you need to cut, like you need a haircut because of X, Y, Z. And then you can either choose to say, I'll take your recommendation, or if you feel like you can manage your hair, say, no, I'd rather not, just trim it like to what I want. So communicate very, very clearly about what you are, and don't take it for granted that the person knows what you want. And I think that was my mistake, in that because I said I wanted a trim, like in my mind, I'm like 3 inches, 4 inches is a trim. Anything more than that is like a haircut. So that was one of the biggest lessons. But the other thing, on the more, deeper side, I remember the first few days after that, I was in a state of I was working this out in my mind and in my heart with the Lord. And God really had to reveal to me that a lot of my, not a lot, but some part of my identity was wrapped up in my hair. I used it as, a ministry, as a way to connect with people. Maybe 3-4 days before I got the haircut, I had appeared on this TV program promoting the hair course and so forth. And so it made me, when I lost it, it made me realize how much of my identity I had placed on my hair. And a lot of things we don't realize how much of our identity is wrapped up in it until it's gone. It wasn't until I came into full-time homemaking that I realized how much of my identity was wrapped up in my work and success that I got in my work and ministry and doing all sorts of things. It's not until you lose a relationship that you realize how much of yourself is wrapped up in another person. And this whole experience was this sort of refocus on my identity is supposed to be in Jesus Christ and Jesus Christ alone. If your identity is tied up in anything that can be lost, that can be cut, that can die, that someone can take away, your identity is in the wrong thing. You are in Christ. And that can never change. Your hair could get cut off. You could lose your job. You could lose your marriage. You can lose your children. You could lose your health. So many things can be taken away from you. So just ensuring that Christ is the foundation of who you are, that is key. There's this story in Judges 16 or 17 about Samson, who his long hair was symbolic of this covenant that he had with God and the supernatural strength that he had. Samson pulled away from God, rebelled against the Lord, and he had his hair cut. And there's this beautiful verse that says, but the hair of Samson's head began to grow back. And it just shows you the grace and mercy of our Heavenly Father, that despite all of the ways that Samson turned away from him, God was still merciful to cause his hair to go back, which was symbolic of him returning to the Lord. And so here, the whole thing here, in the grand scheme of things, hair, it grows back. But the bigger lesson here is in Joel chapter 2, it says that the Lord will restore to you all the years that the locusts have eaten. We go through certain loss. They can be something as small as losing your hair, or something major as in losing a child, or just other tragedies that can happen. A haircut is not a tragedy in the grand scheme of things. It's not a tragedy. But God is able to restore. He's able to redeem those moments, those times, those things that we have lost for our good and for his glory. What are some things I'm doing differently with my hair? I feel like I'm going to do a more extensive video on this. But one, I'm not doing a pre-poo. I'm not doing pre-poo with my hair anymore. This is actually something that I learned from the stylist, because there were some things she taught me, and I'm sure it's according to what she knows is best, that she shared. So there are definitely things that I'm going to change in my regimen. But for now, I'm not going to be doing a pre-poo. You know, we tend to put oil in our hair before we wash it. Yeah, at this stage, I'm not going to do that. I'll explain why later, but that's something I'm going to do because I want to make sure that, you know, starting off with fresh, clean hair and not having all of that oil and build up. Yeah, I'll explain that more. And definitely focusing more on the health of my hair and enjoying it more over length, because I have to admit, you do get to a point where the focus is more on length than on the health of your hair. And the same thing happens spiritually. We can get to certain points where we are more concerned on externally how we look. We're participating in church services. Externally, we look spiritually okay. But if you were to zoom in, we have just like those minerals and the water that builds up over time in your hair. It's those real small, tiny things that's causing so much damage to your faith growth and to your relationship with Christ. And so I've definitely been, there's this shift that has taken place, or coming back to the original course, which was wanting to get my hair to be at a healthier state. So right now, this is a twist out, but you can see that the curls are really defined. I've actually never had my hair look like this before. It is definitely healthier. And of course, after washing all of those stuff out, and just a quick tip, if you recognize that your hair has been damaged a lot because of hard water, if you've done everything possible and your hair is still dry and still tangly, it's probably hard water and you need like a strong shampoo, because regular shampoo doesn't pull all of those minerals out. So you need like a chelate to really strip it down. Anyway, that's a whole other video. The lesson that I definitely want others to learn, I mentioned it a little bit earlier. One, clear communication. Very clear communication. And number two, reminding yourself of where your identity truly lies. Okay, this has gone much longer than I was expecting. Much more, a whole lot more is in my hair course. And I really hope that you would sign up for it. I finally launched it. There's like you get these digital downloads. It's 100+ pages of just so much good information. And then you get a digital journal. This one I just printed out just so I could have it. And it has challenges and devotionals, because the whole hair course is 4 weeks. So you have it's just a lot of good stuff. So the link is going to be in the description for signing up for that. This hair journey has really taken on a much more personal meaning for me. And just the main thing that I always want others to remember, if God cares so much about your hair, how much more does he care for the more eternal things, which is your soul salvation, your relationship with Jesus Christ? Because what is going to be the point if you have long, healthy, flourishing hair, but your soul is not right with Christ? You can lose it anytime, but your relationship with Jesus, that is the one thing that will last. That is the one thing that can take you through this life. So make sure today, if you have not yet already, that you will make that decision to have a personal relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ.